What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Morbid Curator Podcast. With me, I have my dad. We're going to be talking about Terrifier 2. Came out in 2022, directed by Damien Leone. Man, what a fucking great movie. We're going to get straight into that here in a second, but what's up, Dad? How you been doing?
Good. How about you, Bo?
I've been pretty good, man. Did you happen to see the new metal that's been coming out? Fucking Cattle Decapitation with Weed Are Young. What'd you think about that?
I loved it. I really liked it. It wasn't like, totally spectacular or anything, but it was definitely Cattle Decapitation. I mean, it had everything about them in that track.
So. Oh yeah, I definitely agree. Travis Ryan, his vocal range. We've talked about it in the last episode 11, where me and you just bullshitted about metal and stuff. But we can mention it again. I mean, Travis Ryan's vocals and his range are just fucking ridiculous, dude.
Yeah.
And just like in my opinion on it, there wasn't as much gutturals as I would like him to do because I love his gutturals. But.
And I think it only had that one breakdown in the beginning there that was just kind of...
Yeah, it kind of lacked the breakdowns that they have in a lot of their songs. And it definitely was a good track, but it wasn't my favorite, and it probably won't be my favorite on this album. Who knows? That's the other thing. You never know what they're going to come out with. And same with that Dying Fetus track, the second track of their album.
Fury.
Yeah, I don't even know if they... Have they came out with a album title yet?
No. In fact, I don't know if you noticed or not, but the kind of picture they have with their first track is different than the picture that's came out with.
I noticed Fury. That. So,
I don't know. Who knows what the cover is going to be like.
Did you like that track?
It was okay. I like the first one better.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. Compulsions of Cruelty.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was really good. I remember the first time I heard it, it like gave me chills because we haven't heard, like I've talked about, Dying Fetus is like my favorite death metal band, and we haven't heard anything from them in like 5 years up until recently when we heard Compulsions of Cruelty. And it just gave me goosebumps, man. It was such a great song, and it got me re-pumped for some Dying Fetus, But yeah, the second track, Unbridled Fury, it wasn't better, it wasn't as good as the first one or anything like that, but it wasn't as good as the first track, but I liked it. It's fucking Dying Fetus, so it's hard to. It's hard to not like anything that they put out, unless they just came out with some straight ass like clean vocals or something like that. I'm pretty much gonna like anything that they put out, I think.
I really anxious to get an album title or a release date or something.
Yeah, dude, it's since Wrong One to Fuck With, we haven't had anything from Dying Fetus, so it's definitely been due. We're
refreshing.
Yeah, it's refreshing, and we're definitely due for something from them.
Oh yeah.
But is there any? I'm trying to think. Is there anything else that's came out? Or I mean, obviously we talked about the Obituary album last episode, but I'm trying to think if there's anything.
I haven't really heard of anything other than.
Yeah, I can't think of anything either. But yeah, those are, pretty decent tracks. So, I'm excited for both these albums to come out and just hear what they gotta say.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Now that we talked a little bit about some metal, man, what are your thoughts on this movie, Terrifier 2?
I fucking love it, dude. It's to me, it's got 80s written all over it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you could easily just start watching this movie, and if you didn't know any better that it was, if you didn't know it came out in 2022, you'd think this is 1980. It's the over the top splatter gore movie for sure.
Yeah, it's got that 80s slasher, like you said, just all written all over. I mean, even the music.
Yeah, the music.
Everything. I mean, and like the cheesiness of it, like with the gore, I love that kind of thing. Yeah. So it doesn't really, it doesn't bother me at all. There's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, that's super cheesy," and it's stupid and they just like hate the movie because of that. But like to me, I don't know, man. And because that's how it was in the 80s. And I feel like it's kind of mimicking like an 80s slasher, you know, it's so
and quite honestly, I really can't think of anything that's come out recently in the last few years that even comes close to that.
Yeah, no, there's been quite a few movies that I've seen. I can't even, of course, I can't name the title right now, but there's one, you know, a few that are like trying to mimic an 80s feel, you know, and they're horrible. Like it's just completely trash. But this movie, man, it was like, you know, if this movie came out in the 80s, it would be a classic to this day. You know what I mean? Just like Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, all that shit.
Along with them. And who's to say that someday it will be, you know, later, you know, 20 years from now or whatever. I mean, just because of the popularity it got, I mean, the whole thing, people were passing out and throwing up in the movie theaters over this movie.
They were weren't they like banning it from the theaters? And it was hard to watch for a minute. Like you could only see it on YouTube. I think that's when I first watched it, was on YouTube. Before it, you know, now it's on Vudu and you can buy it at the stores now and shit like this. But like that, when it was in the theater, they took it out and that was it. For a while. And
it kind of reminded me of when The Exorcist came out. People were running out of the movie theaters in disgust and all this stuff. And it just, you know, it just kind of reminded me about that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, it's so crazy that people get, you know, but then you get people who are like shitting on the movie and you know, that it was horrible and the plot was stupid, which you know, the plot wasn't, if you've seen the first one, then you understand it a little bit more, you know what I mean? The only thing, you know, I don't want to spoil anything at this point in the episode, but you know, there's supposed to be a plot in the second one with like their dad and all this stuff, and they don't really explain it very well, and you don't get any answers from it or anything like that, so that kind of sucks. But I've heard that there's been talk about like a third movie, possibly a fourth one. So I mean, you know, I think Damien has some shit up his sleeve, and maybe he's just kind of preparing us for, you know, a good story or something, you know. Because there is a lot of things that this movie had from the first one, you know, like that woman Victoria who got her face fucking cut off, you know, ripped off, whatever. It's just, I don't know. What have you heard about it? I've heard like people saying that it was shitty and that they didn't respect the gore with that.
No, in fact, I mean, I saw several comments on the internet just saying that it was ridiculous, and they were saying that there's no gore in horror movies.
Really?
I mean, that's, you know, it does not make sense. The definition of horror is an intense feeling of fear, shock, or disgust.
Right.
I think the shock and the disgust kind of fits into this movie.
Yeah, for sure. I mean? Yeah, it's a very, I mean, it's a very disturbing movie, you know, as far as gore.
It just really dumbfounded me, like how, and I don't know if these, I don't know if these people just, you know, horror to them is the paranormal shit, or, you know, just mainstream.
Yeah, mainstream horror, I mean, really is mainly like paranormal.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just, they're not used to the gore, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, because like I said, it's been years since I've seen a movie come out like this that was brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, really, in all honesty, the only one that comes to mind is that brutal is Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah,
I mean, really, I don't, nothing off the top of my head that I can just sticks in my mind.
Yeah.
It's 1980, so.
Right, go figure.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. It's, I can't think of anything that's as gory, especially and so like back-to-back gore, like in kills. Like it's not just every, you know, couple kills in this movie. It's like every other scene. You know, there's not I've seen a lot of gory ass movies, but like there's only 2 kills in it or 3 kills. You know, this is like a constant thing. Of Art the Clown just walking around and fucking people up big time, like to the max, like over the top, like you said earlier. It's over the top gore, and me personally, I love that shit. Like I find it humorous, and I think that's the point. It's supposed to be kind of like a funny thing. It's supposed to be super over the top, like ridiculous.
And that's what a lot of people don't. I think that's what a lot of people aren't doing. I mean, I've heard just constant like, oh, there's no story, it's bad acting, and well, that's a slasher film. And it, they're saying it doesn't make sense. Well, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, they didn't make sense either. How do you can't kill somebody, he just keeps coming back, no matter what. So it just doesn't make sense, but that's a slasher film.
Yeah, for sure. So what would you rate this movie?
Honestly, I rate it a solid 9.
Really? Wow. Yeah. That's good. That's a good rating.
I loved it. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I would definitely give it like an 8 for sure. Yeah. It was, I mean, one of my favorite ones in a long time that I've seen. And like I've said, I've heard nothing but like shitty comments about it, honestly. Like I haven't really heard much good about it on my end, So yeah, when I watched it, I was like, wow, I don't like, it's hard to believe that people aren't into it. It's like, it's something you just don't see very often in movies anymore. The amount of gore and, they don't censor. I mean, if you see the first one strung up and they're cutting her and, so it's like, it's crazy.
I mean, there's like nothing left to imagination. You see everything, like a lot of these newer horror movies nowadays, they just kind of leave it up to imagination kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's, I'd definitely give it an 8. And I would recommend watching it. If you're a horror fan, you're into like slasher films, you're into gore,
especially
into gore, it won't disappoint you. No. I mean, I get disappointed with a lot of movies, especially newer ones. Like I said, this is the first one that I've seen in a long time that's actually got my attention that I actually like. So I would definitely watch this if you're into horror, gore, anything. So yeah, we can just jump right into it, man. I'm gonna do well before I get into the walkthrough. I want to Rotten Tomatoes gave it an 86%, which is, for me, it's weird because I never follow what Rotten Tomatoes says, because usually it's like completely ridiculous. Like everything that I like, they don't. Right. So I was really surprised when I seen that they gave it such a high rating of an 86%, because it's like most of the shit I watch is like 20%, 30%, not even on the scale, So yeah, I just wanted to let the listeners know that Rotten Tomatoes, out of everything, gave it an 86%. So I guess some people do like it.
Right. Yeah. I think it's just mixed feelings all around. I mean, I guess it's like with anything.
I've learned a long time ago that
I think it would have been received differently if it was an 80s film. I mean, it probably would have got banned. People still would have ran out of the movie theater and stuff. But you just don't have all this commotion of,
all the controversy,
all on the internet. Everybody knows, back then we didn't have internet. So
right. Yeah. Nobody knew about it unless they seen a flyer for it or something, or, maybe a newspaper or some shit, But yeah, so like right off the rip, the movie starts out like brutal as fuck. I mean, it starts out, it's like a shot of like a alley, and you see Art walking down it, and then it like flips to another scene where he's like in this morgue, which is from the first one, because
the very ending of the first movie.
I mean, spoil alert. If you haven't seen the first one, plug your ears for a second. He blows his he don't blow his head off, but he puts a pretty big fucking hole in it at the end of the first one. And they you know, long story short, he ends up in the morgue. They think he's dead. He's very much not dead.
Yeah.
And you find out about the paranormal stuff a little bit more. Like in the first movie, it just seems like more of like a slasher, which it is more of a slasher than anything.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the very end in the morgue, there's like lights flickering, and he kind of just comes back to life spontaneously,
so
paranormally.
Jason thing going on.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, typical slasher shit,
yep,
you know.
Yep.
They never die,
right.
and they never will, you know.
Right.
But yeah, so, you know, that's the ending of the first one. Second one, he ends up starting out in the morgue. And it shows like the mortician just like crawling, and he's got blood all over him. Art the Clown's behind him.
The mortician, he's grabbing for the phone too.
Yeah.
Like, trying to call for help.
Yeah, and his like throat's cut or something.
Yeah, his throat's cut, and he's just gargling shit.
Yeah.
And, you know,
the dispatch is on there like,
hello,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Anybody there?
Right. Right.
And like during all of this, Art's like writing in blood. He like writes art on the mirror in the morgue, and you know, he's just at this point you just know he just like doesn't care. He's like a joking guy. If you've seen the first one, you know he's like he has no remorse for killing anybody or anything. Like he just doesn't give a shit.
Right.
And which makes it, to me, it makes his character stand out a lot. You know, he doesn't talk at all. And just the way his mannerisms are and the way he like, you know, he's like a mime, you know, where he makes all these gestures and like laughing gestures and shit like that. And it's like humorous, you know, and it kind of spices up this movie a lot. Just Art the Clown is just like such a character in himself that it just really makes the movie and makes him stand out from like, you know, Jason or, you know, Freddy Krueger, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah. That's why I see it's going to be a classic later on down the road.
Yeah, for sure.
He's so different in that aspect.
Yeah.
His mannerisms and shit, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so he like takes that mallet thing and just like beats the shit out of this mortician, like just
his head.
His head. Yeah, it just, I mean, it just like disintegrates almost, you know, it just turns to mush. And it's so, and this is like within the first like few minutes of this movie.
Yeah, this is off the rip.
Yeah. So it's like you're already like, wow, this is gonna be okay. This is the type of movie this is gonna be.
Then he grabs his eyeball out, which that's funny.
Yeah, he like rips his eye out and he like tries putting it in his eye socket, right?
His eye got put out in the last movie. Art did his eye. Got put out. He's like shoved it in his own eye.
And he's like just making those mannerisms, dude. Just like, you know, like it's a joke to him.
Right.
And so after that scene where he just like brutally kills it like goes to the intro credits and stuff like this, and then it shows him then he goes into that laundromat and he like gets completely naked and he's looking at this newspaper on it, and it says head-on crash kills family of 4, and he's like laughing at it, like he's you know,
he's doing laundry, he's doing his bloody clothes are all bloodied up and everything.
It's like
laundry.
You know, it's like it's just so humorous, like just I love the dark humor of this movie, you know what I mean? And maybe that's why a lot of people don't like it, because it's just maybe they don't understand or get dark humor. So that kind of makes sense, I guess, because it is pretty like fucked up. I mean, the dude like totally mutilates and dismembers and I mean the list goes on.
Brutal,
and he just laughs at it. You know, there's and so he's at this laundromat washing his clothes because, like he just has blood all over it from killing people from the first movie, and then now that mortician. You know, so he's covered in blood. Goes to the laundromat. And he sees this like little demon clown girl, and they like wave to each other, and like it's like his friend or something, you know. And she's like honking his nose, and she like sticks her finger in his eye socket, and is just like, and there he's like shrugging his shoulders and like laughing, and you know, it's just it's so crazy. Just the way he acts, man. And I'm gonna say that multiple times throughout this because it's just it never ends. You know, his mannerisms never end.
And she's sitting there just pissing out black and blood shit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I guess Damien made several references to different movies in this movie, and that was one of them from The Exorcist when Reagan pisses on the floor. So that's kind of like a
that's awesome.
Shout out to The Exorcist there.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's sick. Yeah, I mean it makes sense because it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
And so they end up like playing patty cake.
Yeah.
The Art the Clown and this demon girl that you don't really know
dressed
much.
like him in a way. It's kind of black and white.
And she's like demonic, has like the demonic teeth and like the eyes, and she's clearly like dead, you know, like a some type of dead demon kind of thing.
Right.
And they're playing patty cake, which I forgot to mention. There's like a dude in the lobby asleep. You know, when Art first walks in, there's a dude asleep on a chair. And them playing patty cake like wakes him up, and he's like, "What the fuck?" And he looks up and he sees Art butt ass naked, like playing patty cake with himself because he doesn't see that demon girl.
Right.
So he's just like, "What the fuck?" You know? He's just kind of watching it, and it kind of like it skips the scene where you know Art's getting his clothes out of the washer and dryer, and he's cleaning up. And I don't know if you caught it or not, but like it shows the broom with like
the handle broken off.
Broken off. Yeah. And then it shows it in the dude's head.
Through his head. You can actually see the broom handle through his mouth and stuff out the bottom of his chin and shit.
The gore is like so good, man. Like the some of it's pretty cheesy, the FX and stuff, like just how over the top.
Right.
But it's still good. Like good I don't know, it gets my attention. I think it's cool. Maybe I'm just different than most people. I get a kick out of that kind of thing.
I do too.
So, he just walks out of this laundromat, and then it skips to Barbara. You meet the mom, Barbara, of this this girl named Sienna and this boy named Jonathan.
Yeah, her brother.
Her brother, yeah. So it's like and you don't really know, these aren't characters from the first movie or anything like that. So they're like new characters. And I don't know. What'd you think about Barbara's acting? I don't know the name of the actor.
The worst one in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Worst actress in the movie. Yeah.
It was like overacting.
Yeah.
It was just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just like nitpicking. Everybody else was a pretty good actor.
That's horror movies. It's like we how many movies have we seen that's just like shitty acting and shit
I mean, some of my favorite movies, the whole movie is all of them acting like her, you know.
Right.
But it's something about her just like was really sitcom-y type acting, just over the top, overacting kind of thing, and it just kind of like surprised me, I guess, right off the rip, like.
Because it really stands out, even from the other actors, because the other actors are actually decent,
Yeah, they all were. Yeah. I mean, I don't have any type of complaint from anybody, especially, dude. Like, who was the actor for Art the Clown again? It's
David Howard Thornton.
Yeah, and dude, I give him so much respect because he doesn't have to say anything, and his acting is just so good. Like,
just to be able to, it's sort of like the same thing that Kane Hodder had to do for Jason.
Yeah,
it was in his mannerisms that made him like the better Jason, because he breathed real heavy, and he actually was really into that character, and I think that's what David Howard Thornton does.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's like, I have so much respect for him. After seeing his, it keeps you intrigued the whole time. So you meet the mom and the teen girl. Well, I think she's teen. I don't know. She was drinking, probably older than teen, but
who knows?
It doesn't really matter. Yeah. But her name's Sienna. So they're like talking at the dinner table. And that's when you meet Jonathan, and they're just like asking. Sienna asks Jonathan what do you want to be for Halloween, and he wants to be Art the Clown, or the Miles County killer at that, and they're all like just disgusted with them. They're like, what? Why would you want to be? It's like dressing up as like Charles Manson and shit, or
as they said, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Why would you do that? Yeah,
it's just kind of like disrespectful to the victims and whatever is what they were saying. And so they're just like talking shit about it. And at this point, me personally, I was like, Jonathan's like super interested in murderers and stuff like this, and it just, I don't know, it like shows him like flipping through like he's like surfing the web for like murderers and stuff like this. And at this point I'm like, all right, this dude's gonna have like some type of like, he's gonna be killing shit or something. And even Barbara, the mom, and Sienna, his sister, were like talking about it in the kitchen. They're like, Sienna was telling her mom, like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Like, why is he? And her mom was like cool with it. She's like, what do you mean? It's just a phase. Like, it's not gonna, do anything. He's not harming nothing or anything like this. And you find out that they lost their father, and I don't know if you remember it or not, but he's like looking up Art the Clown's like murderers and stuff on his laptop, and he's like surfing the web for it and all this stuff. And he's just like super interested. Like I said earlier, he's like too interested in it. Even his sister and even a little bit of his mom is kind of like concerned a little bit. They even made like comments of, I think maybe it was his sister who was like, oh, he's going to end up like killing animals or something.
Yeah, she did say that. And he's just kind of obsessed with this.
Yeah, and he's very obsessed with Art the Clown in particular. So after that, he goes back, it goes back to Sienna, and she's like making this costume, which is like, I don't know if you are into Spawn at all or anything, but there's like a woman named Angela, and this is, it like literally looks a lot like her outfit, you know what I mean? And it, like with the wings and like the armor kind of so she's like making this costume, and Jonathan comes in. He has like Art's hat that he's like he's dressing as him for Halloween, so he has this hat, and it needs glue because the strings broke out on it. And she's like, you're not still gonna be him, are you? And he's like, like
he's just a little late now to figure out something else.
And she thinks that like he's doing it because he's afraid, and she thinks that he's only doing it because if he did run across Art in real life, then he'd be like cool with him. Remember, she said something like, you're only doing it because if it came across him, like you think that he would like brush you off because you're wearing his stuff or whatever.
And we find out that their father died too. So that has a lot to do with
maybe he's just like fascinated with death because of that too. Maybe
something. But he had his dad's sketchbook there too and stuff. He was going through,
and that sword. So he like picks up the sword that is in the room, in Sienna's room. And it was a sword that her dad gave to her. It's more like a dagger, probably like a
short
sword. I don't know exactly what it is, but that's when you first see that. And that's like a key thing to this movie because it plays a big part later on in the movie, multiple times in the movie, that sword from her dad. Jonathan is wondering if Art will ever come back, and Sienna's just kind of like, dude, just get out of here, like just go. So he ends up leaving, and Sienna ends up falling asleep. And this is like one of the weirdest but like funniest parts of the movie, I thought. She like starts to dream, and you hear this like stupid ass jingle. It's like what's that? Halloween 3, like that jingle from, how's that go?
8 more days to Halloween.
Halloween. Just
it sticks in your head, and this is the same thing. It just sticks in your head. You'll see this movie, and that jingle will be in your head all
and they
day
play
long.
it like throughout the movie too, and they make references to it and all this shit. But it's like drop on by the Clown Cafe. Like it's almost the same like tempo of the Halloween 3 movie.
And this is this woman with the banjo.
Yeah.
And she reminds me of the girl on The Big Comfy Couch.
Oh,
remember when you guys watched it?
Yeah, dude, because of her like pigtail things
and
or
her
whatever.
Pigtails and the clown makeup and stuff like that. It's like just every time I see her, I'm reminded about that.
Dude, I was thinking the same thing. I couldn't remember the damn show though.
Yeah,
Big Comfy Couch. Dude, it's like, and it's so weird because it's like a commercial. Like it's hard to explain.
It's a jingle, like they're.
It's like they're shooting a commercial.
Yeah.
But it's in her dream.
Yeah.
And it's just so weird. They all singing this song, and they're advertising these Art Krispies cereal, and it's got glass insects and razor blades in it. And
which I didn't know if you knew this or not, Bub, but the guy doing the voiceover for the doing the Art Krispies, you could hear him. That's David Howard Thornton.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's him.
Okay, hell yeah.
Yeah, Damien came up to him and said, I know you don't have any speaking parts in this movie, but how about doing this?
Right,
and that's him.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's a really good fun fact for the listeners and everything. Yeah, I did not know that. That's cool.
That's
him. Yeah. So they're just singing this song, and Art like shows up, and everybody just like cheers. Like it's so weird. You know what I mean? It's obviously it's a dream, so it's it's gonna be out. Fucking whacked out. And he pulls out his bag of tools that he always carries with him, but this time he has like candy. He's like handing out candy to all these, I don't even know what to call them, like commercial actors. Like I don't.
Yeah, they're just.
They're obviously big fans of him, and he like specifically like looks at Sienna and like waves to her, walks up to her and gives her this like present. It's like wrapped up in newspaper. And she opens it, obviously she's like terrified at this point. She's like, what the hell is going on? Like obviously she don't know she's like in a dream. And she opens it up and it's like a heart. And she like pulls it out and is just disgusted. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, I thought this part was funny too. Art like pulls out a fucking Tommy gun and he was like fucking Tony Montana shit.
And mows down everybody.
Yeah, he's like fucking, some say hello to my little friend shit. And he just blasts everybody, just completely shoots every single buddy in there besides Sienna. And
I think she gets clipped or something in the leg or something.
Yeah, I think so.
Because she's like crawling on the floor.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. This whole time that like everybody's getting shot, that same girl from the with playing the guitar is singing, singing, and they like he goes up to her and they're like dancing with each other basically, and he like sets her on fire.
Yeah, he's got this blowtorch, and she's just like dancing.
She's still dancing,
like engulfed in flames, still dancing and shit.
and like the fire is going out of control in her dream because he's just like setting everything on fire, and he has like this. Yeah, it's basically like a flamethrower. It's like a one-handed like little
and he's like
thing
and everything. And she's crawling up to the table with that kid with the Art Krispies.
Yeah,
She grabs the box.
Yeah,
and sticks her hand in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think out with all glass and stuff all over her hand.
Was she? Do you think she was doing that to like try to wake up from her dream? Maybe.
Well, what happened was she stuck her hand in it and she's like screaming. She pulls it out. It's just like nothing but glass and bugs and everything else on it and everything. And then Art's coming towards her and she shoves her hand in there again, just like forcing in there. And she pulls out the sword.
Oh, okay.
And he blows the blowtorch at her and she's blocking the flames.
Okay. I remember. That's And so everything is like on fire. He's she's protecting herself with her dad's sword in this dream, but then she wakes up to her room being on fire. And so it's like I said, it's like a paranormal thing at this point where it's like things are happening in her dreams but then are happening in real life and all this stuff. And which later on towards the end of the movie you don't really know what's real and what's not at a lot of points. But at this point, her room's on fire. She's like freaking out. And, her mom comes in there, puts it out and all this shit. And of course her mom's pretty pissed off. And she thinks that she left like a candle lit.
Right.
And she's like, no, dude, like
she had her wings up, spread up over this.
Yeah, her costume wings. Yeah. And
they caught fire.
Her costume was destroyed, but that sword that she had on her nightstand, that same one that she used in her dream, was like untouched.
Yeah.
Like not even.
Yeah.
Everything else was destroyed besides that. So it kind of, at this point in the movie, even personally anyway, you kind of make, what did her dad have anything to do with art and this like paranormal stuff? Like you start getting questions in your head, like what could what could that sword possibly have anything to do with? Like why is it defending art, and why is it blocking the flame, and why, you know what I mean? Right. Like there's got to be some reason
her dad give her that sword.
Yeah. So there's got to be some reason why this sword keeps popping up, and it continues to pop up throughout the movie. But so at this point, that's what I'm questioning. I'm like, okay, so her dad definitely has something to do with art, something. But I'm going to say it now because I don't want to forget saying it later. You never really find out anything about her dad or anything, or
you find out a little.
Yeah, we'll touch base on some,
but
things,
it's not much. It's very vague.
And we'll get to the points where I'll mention her father more, but like I just want to make it clear that, like, because I don't want to miss it later. You don't it leaves you questioning. By the end of the movie, you're like, dude, what the hell, you know? And that's where people probably get that there's no plot or there's no story, because you don't really get your answers questioned, but your questions answered. But you just don't really know, and that's got to be what people are talking about with the story. But there's
it's all over the place too. The story is, you don't know, like you said, you don't know what's real, you don't know what's paranormal or what. So
it's a good base for like a third movie, though. I mean, he could have a whole movie where it's like answering everything from this movie, the second movie, and that would make the whole trilogy awesome, if he could answer more questions about the father and stuff like this. She's like super, she's obviously, it's like next day, and she's like paranoid as hell, because she's like, dude, there's got to be a reason why I had this dream, and then shit's coming up in flames in my room and all this. It shows Art and the little girl like in his like little workshop. Like I don't know what else to call it. He's just like putting tools together and trying to make makeshift weapons and shit.
Yeah.
The little demon girl, she's like watching this like little TV on the floor,
which is not even plugged in.
It's just and you see Victoria, the woman from the first movie, the one that I've mentioned with, she doesn't have a face.
Right. Being interviewed with Monica.
And so she thinks that Art is dead. You know what I mean? Like in the interview, because you're watching this interview on this little TV, and she thinks that Art's dead. And he's like laughing. He's like, what the,
Yeah.
And he's like walking over to the TV, just like hearing her talk to this Monica Brown.
Yeah.
And laughing and kind of, his mannerisms, whatever. And he just like kicks the TV and shatters it,
Yeah.
And the next scene, it shows Jonathan at school. And like, there's like a bunch of these punk ass kids who they see this possum, and he's like dead, like basically like roadkill kind of thing.
Right.
And they're like poking it with sticks and they think it's cool. And
worms and maggots come out.
Yeah. Stuff. And at this point, I was like, Jonathan was like backing off on it. Like he wasn't as intrigued as you would think that he was. He's super intrigued with Art the Clown and stuff and murders and whatnot. But he was like sickened by this possum. And one of those punk ass kids was like talking to this little girl, trying to get her to come over there. I can't remember exactly what he said. I think it was something about like cats.
Yeah, he said this cat just had babies.
Come over. Come check it out or something.
See the kittens.
Yeah, and trying to get that little girl to come over, and she comes over, and of course it's like, it's a horrid
screaming stuff
sight. Yeah. So, and she's freaking out. and the teacher walks over, and you know, they think it's Jonathan because he's just like such a weird kid and stuff.
Yeah.
And she ends up just telling him to go inside, and you know, that's disgusting, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He goes into the school. I think if I remember right, he's like drinking from the water fountain or something in the hallway. Jonathan.
Yeah.
And he like sees that little girl. She's like fucking with that possum, like ripping it.
And
Art's there. Yeah.
Them. Yeah, they're sitting on the floor in the hallway.
Yeah, and they're just like, you know, he's just like, what the heck is going on, you know? And they like throw the possum at him, and he catches it. And it's like a super graphic part. I mean, the possum's like ripped. I mean, there's intestines coming out, guts all over the place, all over the floor. And they throw the possum at him, and he like catches it and then throws it on the ground. And the teacher sees it. Like she sees Jonathan running past her, and then like looks down the hallway and sees the possum. So now clearly she thinks that because she was the same teacher that seen him out with the possum earlier. So she thinks that he brought it in there and, you know, was killing animals. So it's like a big red flag now for her and for everybody at this, you know, at this point. They're thinking he's a psycho.
Right.
Then there's a lot of like skipping, you know, scene. There's so many different like side things with Sienna and Jonathan and Art and all this stuff. So it flips scenes very frequently.
Yeah.
So then it skips to Sienna. You know, she's at her school and stuff like this, and she's talking with her friends. One of her friends mentions a bitchy host, Monica Brown.
Yeah.
You know, got her face torn off and shit.
Yeah.
Which we know that's the, you know, girl from the
the reporter from the first
movie and from what they mentioned her earlier on the TV and all that stuff. So it's like the timeline. I don't know if you were confused a little bit with the timeline of, because I am.
Yeah, I was too, and I mean
between the first movie and the second movie, it's kind of hard to grasp like what is going on between.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be set a year after what happened.
Yeah,
the first one, and it gets confusing because part of the second one is in the first one. And,
right.
You know,
yeah.
It's just,
so it's kind of hard to just.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this movie, you know, and if you do understand like the timeline with, you know, leave it in the comments or something. You know, explain it, because it's hard for me. I've watched these a few times now.
Yeah.
And it's hard to understand like the order of how shit's happening. So if anybody of, you know, any listeners know what the hell is going on, please, you know, comment what you think. But
and they talk about her face being all mutilated up and stuff, and Sienna freaks out.
Yeah, she's like freaking out, and her friends are all like, "Oh, it's okay," and shit. And she's like, "No," you know. And she like said that she had a strange experience and stuff, but she didn't really give like details at this point. Did you catch that reference with one of her friends was like laughing at the Monica Brown? She was like, "You want a piece of my Monica Brown cookie?"
Oh, yeah. Because she said her face looked like the inside of her cookie.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of funny. Like, you know, it's super dark humor. You know, like this woman got her face fucking ripped off, and you know she's comparing it to a cookie. You know, it's just that kind of humor that like keeps me interested in these movies. You know, I'm super down for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you know, so it goes to her mom, Barbara, and she's like telling Jonathan to go to his room. You know, it's after school now. This movie goes like pretty quickly. Like, you know, it's a long movie, like a 2.5 hour or so long movie, but it's like,
it doesn't seem like that when you watch it.
Yeah,
It's kind of just pretty quick.
It goes
because there's so much going on.
Yeah. And so, like I said, it like, you know, it's already after school now. Yeah. And, you know, Barbara's telling Jonathan to go to his room because she's pissed that, you know, he was caught supposedly like killing animals and taking them into the school and stuff.
But nobody believes him.
Yeah, nobody believes him. And Sienna and her friend are out at a costume shop at this point. And Art shows up. and just like stares at, I think, Sienna. It could have been her friend Allie.
Yeah, it was Allie at first.
Yeah. And they look so much alike.
Yeah, they do.
It's hard to.
You have to really pay attention.
Yeah, it's hard to keep.
It confused me the very first time I watched it. Confused me because I was getting them all mixed up.
Yeah, there's a point later on that we'll talk about where it like confused me. I don't know if it confused you or not. With we'll get to it. But
I didn't know if you knew this or not. The Halloween shop was actually shot on location at the Abracadabra Halloween shop in New York City. That's where they shot it there at the.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And if you notice, Sienna is obviously there to get new wings because hers burned up.
Yeah,
and everything. Later on, when she gets home, if you look at the bag, it says Abracadabra on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I did see that. I did see that.
So that's a Halloween shop in New York City.
Wow, that's awesome.
They shot it there. Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. That's another good. I love. Like I didn't know, and listeners listen to this shit. They can appreciate, those fun facts. Also, I mean, I do. I
do too. I really,
dude. I even watch like the special features and stuff of movies and commentary and stuff just to learn a little bit extra and stuff. So that's cool. That too. Yeah, that's cool that you say all those fun facts. But yeah, they're
Art is staring at Allie at first.
Yeah, and then he walks because she's on the phone, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
and she kind of walks past him like, "What the hell?"
Yeah,
kind of thing. And Art's just staring at her and stuff.
Yeah, Art's like, and he walks to the back and he sees Sienna now.
Yeah,
and they're just kind of like staring at each other.
Yeah,
and she's kind of like creeped out,
Right.
And she ends up like weirdly, awkwardly walking past him through the doorway,
right?
And acts like I don't think she was really buying anything. Like her wings, obviously, but they're on her back,
right? Yeah, she put
and
on.
So she grabbed something from the shelf real quick and threw it up there. So and and the dude's like, those two, her wings. And
I have to scan those two.
Yeah, and yeah,
the glasses,
dude. Well, it was funny because she's like, "Oh, I don't have my purse. I left it downstairs," and she about shit herself because now she has to walk past the clown again.
Right.
And then boom,
like just that instant when it was just that instant when she said, I think I forgot my bag.
Yeah. he puts her purse on the counter and
doesn't
walks
say
away.
Shit to her. Turns around, just walks over to this display case, and it's so funny because he's just got one hand on his hip, just wiggling his fingers and stuff, like he's
actually looking shopping or something.
Like he's sitting there looking at what can I fuck with now,
Yeah, he does it all just for shits and giggles, what I mean. I feel like the whole movie is just shits and giggles kind of thing. And he's blowing one of those birthday things, I don't even
party
know.
Favors or something. I don't know. It's hilarious. It's one of the funniest parts, I think, in the movie, where he's blowing and making this, and the cashier's over there, "Hey you," and he just he sucks it in. He's like,
like he's in trouble.
Yeah,
or something.
He's in trouble, and dude's like, if you're gonna put that in your mouth, you need to pay for it. And he spits it out, and it goes flying over there. This is just one of the most. To me, it was one of the funniest parts in the thing. Just as his mannerisms and stuff,
it's so hokey that it's funny, and I agree. That's that scene just with the sunglasses and the party favor. It's just for whatever reason, I can't remember, the cashier ends up having to go to the back for something.
Oh, he's getting a bigger bag for her wings.
And this is another funny part where he skips up to her all creep, not skipping but creeps up to her. And
she knows he's coming up behind.
And he takes that
bicycle horn,
bike horn thing and it's just honk honk, keeps honking it in her ear. And
he comes up to her and he just holds it up there and she's like, "Please don't."
It reminds me, for whatever reason, it reminded me of Shrek, like the second one when Donkey, they're in that like carriage and like Donkey's like doing that
noise.
And he keeps doing it over and over again in their ear.
You're right.
For whatever reason that like like that came to mind, and and the cashier comes back and is like telling, throughout this whole thing, the cashier's like, dude, like, what are you like, what's your problem, and he keeps telling him to like cut it out, and Sienna leaves at this point, and Art follows her and closes the door and flips the close sign, and from open to closed, right. And then he like walks up to the cashier, and the cashier's like, dude, like, we're closing up, man, like,
you gonna buy anything?
Yeah, like, what are you doing? You're just fucking around at this point. And Art like throws up the bike horn, like he's gonna buy it, and he's like gets his trash bag that he always carries. It's like his thing. He always carries around this trash bag full of like weapons, and he's like digging for his change, but he's like throwing shit up on the counter that's like just random objects, and the cashier's like, dude, like, do you have the change or not? Like, what,
you got the money or not?
Like, what's going on? And Art smacks him upside the head with like an empty bottle, and it like shatters up against his head, and he like stabs him in the eye with it, with the broken in, and
drags him across the counter,
and he like has a meat cleaver and like takes his head off with it, and it's like a super gory part, obviously every scene that's a killing in this is super gory and over the top, but it was very gory and badass looking. And this woman and this kid like come up to the door of the store. They're just like looking in there. The woman's like, oh, they must be closed, or something like that. And all you see is Art holding the cashier's head and just staring at the kid, and the kid's like, oh yeah, that's cool. And,
he's like, wow, that's cool.
Which, why is her kid so amused by this?
Right.
Maybe that's a whole nother issue in its own, but they end up leaving because obviously Art locked the door and put the close sign up, so they thought it was closed, but he just like chucks the head after they leave, and it's like it's just stuff like that. It's just so, I don't know, it's entertaining. Like, not only is it a good movie in my opinion, but it's just funny as hell too.
It is, it's that dark humor,
So then it goes to Jonathan and Sienna again. They're in their I think Jonathan's room at this point. I'm not real sure. And he's like flipping through his dad's sketchbook, and like we mentioned earlier, their dad's dead. And at this point, you don't know what happened to their dad yet. They're flipping through the sketchbook, and like he had like a article from that girl, that 10-year-old girl in that sketchbook, who was horribly like mutilated. She had like a horribly mutilated body of a 10-year-old girl discovered in local carnival. Is what it said in the article. And which, come to find out, is that the demon girl that we've been seeing this whole time. Their dad like drew Art the Clown, and the woman from the first movie who got like cut in half, who was upside down naked and got cut in half, and
it was drawn in there.
She was drawn, and a bunch of other
guys
murders. And so that's a cool reference. So like, you would understand that if you've seen the first movie.
One,
So that was a cool like little showing you from the first movie.
First movie. I didn't know if you caught this or not. Did you check out all the metal posters in his room?
No, actually I didn't.
If you look really good, when their mom walks in, behind her is Carnifex.
Are you serious?
Poster, World War X.
Wow.
Okay. And then off the side you can see an Overkill, a Testament, Carcass, Surgical Steel poster.
Wow.
And behind, when you see Sienna's talking, you can see behind her it's a Metal Blade Records. It's either a patch or sticker or something. You can't.
And it says there. Metal Blade. And stuff. Dude, that's awesome. No, I did not even.
You didn't catch on.
No. Dude, that's awesome. That's a cool like tribute to metal. I don't know about you, but like when I see anything to do with metal especially like death metal or shit like that, or it's like it's cool that like somebody else knows, like Carnifex, and World War X. I mean, that's a new album, that's like came out a couple years ago, maybe last.
No,
it was like 2 years.
I mean, they've had. I can't remember.
I mean, it was recent, so it's cool that it's like.
But yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I didn't know if you picked up on that.
No, I didn't. No, that's really awesome. See all
the posters and stuff in there.
Yeah, I hope there's like metalheads listening to this and like they'll go back and be like, hell yeah, man, because that's cool. Every time you see some shit like that as a metalhead, you don't see it very fucking often,
right?
But yeah, they're flipping through this fucking art book, and like I said, they show a bunch of it's like sketches. Like their dad sketched out what happened in the first movie. So at this point,
he's like predicting what's gonna happen.
Yeah. So it's like, once again, you're thinking this has something to do with their dad, or what's the resemblance here? What's going on? They like compare. There's like this woman that's sketched in the book. And like I said, it looks like Angela from Spawn, the comics, and
it's supposed to resemble Sienna's
costume,
and she's holding this demon head,
and they like Jonathan like compares it like, oh, you're supposed to be this hero or whatever, and it kind of makes sense, like he gave her the sword right before he died, and they're just like, they don't know what else makes sense. So like to them, this is, she has to be this like hero that their dad made up.
Right.
Sienna's still like in denial of this whole entire thing. Like she's like, it's the 1 year anniversary. So there's going to be like punks out there that are fucking around, like acting like Art the Clown. And she's just very, even though she's seen Art multiple times and stuff like this, she never like seen him killing anybody or anything like this. She just thinks that it's somebody dressed up as him, and it's just all a joke, a Halloween joke kind of thing.
Right.
And she's in denial, big time. She tells her brother that, and I think she's just like trying to keep him cool and like not freak out, because then immediately she goes downstairs and tells her mom that she believes that Jonathan had nothing to do with that possum that was killed in the school,
Yeah.
So it's almost like she's just telling him this shit to like keep him level-headed, but deep down she's like, yeah, we're fucked.
Yeah, because her mom even makes the comment like, what's up with this? You just yesterday you're thinking he was the Zodiac killer or something.
Yeah. Her mom's like, dude, like you were just talking shit about him,
right.
But now you're taking his side. Like, what? That makes no sense, dude. One of my favorite parts comes up next, where Sienna, and this is earlier when we were talking about how Allie and Sienna, like you get them mixed up a lot. Like not only do they look like alike, and they look alike and sound alike.
Right.
And, it's hard to distinguish them. But Damien made this part really weird with the way he shot it. Was with Sienna, like trick-or-treaters show up.
Right.
And
the doorbell goes off. And Sienna's grabbing the candy, going to the door.
Yeah. And she opens the door and sees the van, right? No, or does she not? Or is it just the kids at this point?
No, it just, she opens it. She goes for the door and starts to open it up. And then the next scene we see is the door opening, and it's Allie.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's like super confusing. Yeah, it was. Yeah. And like I said, they look so much alike. I didn't even notice it until I started thinking, I'm like, because here in a second, I'll just mention it here in a second. But like you said, now it's Allie.
Yeah.
And
that threw me off too, the very first time I saw it. So.
Yeah. And, the trick-or-treaters show up, and she sees the weird van. Yeah. Allie does. Yeah. And, she gives them the candy, shuts the door, and then the door knocks. Doorbell rings again, and it's Art. So then Art, like, he rings the doorbell, and Allie opens the door. So he's like, and he just holds out his bag of utilities that he has, and his weapons of choice.
Right.
And obviously she can't see it at that point, like what's in the bag, but they're joking around, or she thinks he's joking around.
Right.
and she's like, dude, like, because she saw him at the Halloween store earlier.
Yeah.
So it was like, you know, what
are you doing here?
Yeah, why are you here? How do you know where I live?
Yeah.
You know, it's like just weird to her. And she's like, dude, you're like way too old to be doing this. Like, I'm not giving you candy, you know? And she just shuts the door and goes to walk away. And then it's just Art banging on the door. And it just like, she's ignoring it, you know, at first. And then just gets louder and louder. And eventually it's just like, do, as hard as you can. Yeah. And she goes back out there and she opens the door. And she's like,
are you kidding me?
Yeah.
With this?
And she's like, if I give you candy, will you leave? Yeah. And he nods his head and opens up his bag more, and she throws it in there. And at that point, she like notices what's in his bag, and she's just like even more creeped out. She's like, oh, all right, like, you know, and ends up shutting the door. She like watches him walk off, but she's like super creeped out. At that point, it flips back to Sienna again, because I think that's when it shows like the news and Sienna's watching the news. That's when she heard her name on the news, was after that. Like, so it keeps like switching back and forth between Allie and Sienna, which is like very confusing. I don't know why he shot it that way, because it's so confusing. You know, you don't know who's at, because I seriously thought Sienna was the one that died when, you know, here shortly when you see Allie getting fucked up. I thought it was Sienna. Yeah. You know, the first time I watched it, and then watched it the second time, and it's like, wait a minute, that's not.
Yeah.
And you realize, well, not the second time I watched it, later, you know, further down the road, you realize Sienna's still alive, has her costume, whatever. I don't know. It's just weird that he did that. So Sienna like watches the news, and I forget what they say.
It's about the Monica and
the Monica Brown.
Yeah.
Her face
incidents. The incident there.
And she said something about and so are you, Sienna, or I can't exactly remember what they said, but it just like freaked Sienna out more, you know. It was just I think she's just paranoid at this point, like seeing stuff. Yeah. And then it just shows her making her costume again, and she like thinks that she's like a warrior, like set out to kill this like Art guy, you know what I mean? She's like she has her costume on, and like she just thinks that she's like supposed to be this hero or some shit. Yeah. You know? It's kind of funny.
It's kind of like the costume her dad created.
Yeah. Like we talked about earlier, it was, you know, it's her and Jonathan both think that whoever this woman that their dad drew and made up this hero is supposed to be what Sienna is supposed to do, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. And at this point, like I've said before, you don't really know much about what's going on with her dad or why he drew that character or anything like that. So it's kind of leaves you in this. I mean, it makes you think. So I guess that's a good thing. You kind of, you know, you're sitting there wondering what's next and if you're going to ever find out anything more.
Hopefully, if there's another movie, we'll have more answers.
Yeah. Was there? We can talk about. Was there anything about did Damien say anything about making a third movie or anything that you know of?
Yeah, just what I saw. Damien said that the Sienna and Art the Clown story is going to continue until it's run out. He wants to finish that whole storyline, so even it's not over yet. Oh, okay. So
yeah, that's cool.
And I've heard this a couple times that he's working with Sam Raimi too.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, dude. That'd be really good. I mean, Evil Dead and shit. I mean,
the Spider-Man movies.
I mean, Sam Raimi, you can't go wrong with his movies, you know. Mm-hmm. I think he even did the new Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure he did that one too. Yeah, so that's cool, man. That because by the time we get through this, some people are gonna be like, "What the hell?" Yeah, you know. By the time we get done explaining the movie and stuff like that, you're gonna be lost in a way. So it's good. That's good information. So now it switches back to Allie, and she's walking downstairs, and it's about time for this party that they have. They have a party tonight, and they're getting ready for it. It showed Sienna getting her costume on. Now it's back to Allie and she's walking down the stairs. She sees like her window is broken downstairs. It's like a sliding door. She looks at it and she's like freaked out. What the hell? And she looks over and Art just walks into the kitchen and
he doesn't see her at first.
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
Getting a glass of water
and he's like going through the drawers and shit.
Yeah.
And
I always thought, why the hell is she still standing there? You know, it's like 30 seconds.
Yeah, she's just standing there watching him go through the drawers, and he ends up getting like scissors and I think a knife. He ends up eventually noticing her and running after her. Yeah. And then it's like a really badass scene where he cuts her eye,
the side of her face, through
her eye, yeah. And that was a pretty cool scene. Dude, he just this has got to be one of the worst, it's the most brutal kills.
It's the most brutal kill in this movie.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, I mean, he like scalps her and stabs her multiple times in the back, rips her arm off.
Yeah, and then splits her other arm in two by pulling the fingers apart.
Yeah, and the dude is just so gory. It's just
brutal. Yeah,
over the top gore, very 80s B movie gore. You know what I mean? It's just.
Pours bleach over and salt and shit.
And then he's dumping salt on her and bleach, and they just like torturing her, you know, and she's like crawling, and he's just torturing her the whole time. And then it flops back to Sienna, and she leaves with her costume on.
Oh, with she talks to her mom first.
Yeah,
and I thought it was kind of funny because when she comes down to leave, her mom's watching Night of the Living Dead on TV.
Yeah.
And it's the first part of the movie where that dude's, they're coming to get you, Barbara,
Yeah.
And he says that in there. And I thought it was kind of funny because her mom's name is Barbara.
So her name,
it was kind of funny.
Yeah, her name's Barbara. Yeah. That's a great, that was cool that he did that too. There's a lot of little things that he did that, if you're a horror fan or just, you can kind of get those
I don't know, tidbits here and there.
Yeah.
Kind of shout out to other movies or other directors or, it's just kind of a shout out kind of thing.
So, and her mom wasn't happy with her suit or her costume either. It was like too exposed too much.
Yeah.
She thought it was like kind of skanky.
Revealing. Yeah.
Yeah. She let her go anyway, and she kept saying like, you're not going to be drinking or anything, are you? And she's like, no, I'm not going to drink, and I'll get home okay and all this shit.
Yeah.
And then it just goes to the next scene with Allie. Now Allie's mom like goes up into the room where
she walks in the house and sees the glass door that's shattered.
Yeah.
And then she's freaking out.
And she's
running
looking
upstairs. Yeah.
She's looking for Allie, and she walks into her room and she sees Art like just picking at Allie's legs, like eating, eating her flesh,
Yeah, there's like her legs are just like bones now.
Yeah,
like he's like stripped all flesh from her legs and shit.
Yeah, it's a really cool scene if you're into like gore and that's what, if you're down for that kind of thing. It was a really cool scene. She's like, her mom, of course, is freaked out. It's like a horrific scene that she's seeing, and Art's like laughing about it the whole time.
Yeah.
And Allie starts breathing again and like kind of twitching a little bit, and Art just starts laughing even more because he's like, what the, and it even kind of like shocked him. He's like, what, she's actually alive? That's
she even says mom, and then she
she said mom. And so that was it for,
he goes after her mom.
I think it goes to the dance scene.
Yeah, but you see him like take off the bed, and then it just cuts.
You never see what happens with her mom or anything, but obviously something does happen.
Right. We'll get to that.
And so Sienna's finally at this Halloween party, and thank God it's not going to do the split cut scenes anymore. Right, it's not gonna, it doesn't split between Allie and Sienna anymore.
It was just so bad because they look alike.
It'd be like it'd be a cool thing if they didn't look so much alike, because then you wouldn't be confused or anything like that. But like her, like Sienna opening the door, and then the cut scene, and then it's like actually Allie that opened it. Like that's kind of a cool concept,
right?
But it's just the way that they did it, and the actors looking so much alike. It just didn't, for me personally, didn't fit for the film, and it was just kind of like too much confusion going on for me personally. I don't know how you thought about it.
I agree, and it was just watching it for the first time, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, who's dead, who's not,
because as soon as it goes to the scene where Sienna's coming downstairs with her costume, you're like, wait a minute, weren't you just dead, brutally mutilated and shit,
They're like, no, that's Allie.
So that's when you really kind of understand like what, like that's that was what was happening. As soon as you see Sienna come downstairs, you're like, wait a minute. But yeah, so they go to this Halloween party finally. It shows them like kind of dancing, and it has like the music is like from Blade, the movie Blade.
It's like a rave.
Rave
dance.
And it really
it's like a dance club.
It's a dance club, and it reminds you, like, not even kidding, dude, like I'm like waiting for blood to come down just like from the beginning of Blade, Right, and I thought that shit was kind of cool that it was just that, because the music was different throughout the movie than in the dance party, the Halloween party. It was like more 90s kind of throughout the whole movie. Other than that part, it's like 80s like slasher jingles and shit. Nothing real, the kind that's like hokey.
right.
But yeah, it just shows them at the party. So Sienna, and you meet her other friend Brooke and her boyfriend.
And I thought it was kind of funny that when her boyfriend Jeff shows up, and he's got that sheet over, I don't know if you noticed that, he had a sheet over his head and with glasses.
Oh yeah.
And he come over there, and just right before he scared her, he pulled it off and everything.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That was kind of Damien's homage to Halloween.
Yeah.
Michael had the sheet, and he had those glasses. From that guy.
That makes sense. Hell yeah.
So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's cool that he's that you don't get too many directors that do that, where they put so many little pay homage to stuff, or give credit to other people and shit like that. So that's cool that he kind of did that.
Yeah, he did a lot of them in there. Just even with art, like mocking his victims and laughing and stuff like that. That came from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The hitchhiker did that. He'd laugh and mock, and just kind of laugh, that kind of thing. So he's just got like some little things here and there. And he even did one to we haven't got to it yet, so I'll bring it up when we do. But there's another one on there. But
it's cool, like little
he threw a whole bunch of ones in there.
Yeah, it's cool, like little Easter eggs that you can find, like if you're a horror fan. It's just cool to see that, and it's cool knowing where that stuff came from. It's kind of just like a good thing to put into your movies. It shows Art again, and he comes out of Allie's house, and he's got the head. He's like, the door rings, or the doorbell rings, and he opens it, and he's got this head, which is Allie's mom's head. I'm pretty sure, right?
It is.
And it's like scalped, completely cut
off the top
and hollowed out, He's got candy in it, and all these,
it's a candy bucket now.
And the kids are like, ew, it looks like gross and shit, and which obviously they don't know it, but it's a real head, and the parents are like,
no, it's just fake blood.
It's just fake blood, it's okay. And they're like reaching for the candy, and they're like, it's like all sticky and shit. That was like another funny scene that I loved. He's just like handing out candy in this woman's head, Allie's mom's head. And once they leave, he's like laughing the whole time, because he like cracks himself up with the shit that he does.
And even that one kid even reached for another piece of candy, kind of slaps him on the hand. He's like putting like one finger out, like, no, just one,
yeah,
just one.
Doesn't he like throw the head when they leave too, or something? Or was that a different scene that I was thinking of?
I think that was
that was the cashier, wasn't it? Yeah.
He throws the head. Yeah. But he walks in there. Well, he kind of just, after they leave, he just kind of looks up at it and starts laughing. The thing.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes, seeing that.
Yeah.
And so then it like goes to another scene where Jonathan shows his mom all of their like shows the sketchbook, their dad's sketchbook, and all the articles that were in it. And his mother says, like, he was sick, and she's pretty much bashing the dad, saying that he was just fucked up, like he's fucked in the head. And she rips up the book, the sketchbook.
She said she wants this out of her house and all that.
Yeah.
Well, her mom calls before she trips out and stuff. Her mom calls and called several times, and she missed the call and stuff.
Yeah.
And then she went out to call him back, and then Jonathan had left the house.
Yeah.
And
because he ran outside after his mom slapped him.
Yeah, he called her a bitch, and she slapped him. And then she calls her mom, and her mom's going ape shit over Jonathan.
Yeah, she thinks that Jonathan vandalized her car because there was like shaving cream all over it, and that busted pumpkin.
Yeah,
a couple other things.
Bitch on the windshield.
Yeah, wrote bitch in the shaving cream.
Yeah,
and she
thought
pissed.
He'd come back and trashed her car out.
Yeah, and she's calling Sienna, like, and her friend Brooke, Sienna's friend Brooke, was like, dude, don't answer the fucking phone. What I mean? Right. Like, it's gonna be a buzzkill. And and sure
She's
enough,
like, never call your mom when you're on Molly.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it's like she shouldn't have. I mean, it was a buzzkill. They ended up doing more drugs after that, but after they get off the phone, Barbara's like cleaning up the rest of the mess on their car, and she's talking shit while she's rubbing the shaving cream off. She wipes the driver's window, and you see Art, and he pulls out like a shotgun, like a sawed-off shotgun or something, and just blows her fucking like head straight.
Everything's just blown off.
You see chunks of brain just like splattering across the garage.
And I guess that was Damien's kind of shout out to the movie Maniac.
Yeah. Okay.
It's kind of a
it
was a tribute to Tom Savini, who does the special effects.
Hell yeah.
Maniac and stuff. He was just
there's a scene. There's a scene where
blown off.
Where he has a shotgun and fucking, and it's in a car too. So that's a badass.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that makes sense. Yeah, that's fucking that's awesome. Yeah, that part was really cool. And it gets to Sienna, like I said, she saw that creepy girl, and she's like freaking out because it's a demon girl again, and
nobody sees her but her.
Yeah,
so,
and which
everybody thinks she's tripping.
Yeah, she's like, they probably think it's just the drugs,
Yeah.
So at this point, Jonathan's running back home and sees his mom. Art has her at the dinner table. That's like sitting up, and her fucking face is gone, like
completely blown off.
Yeah, it's like I can't express it enough. It's fucking
no face there,
it's gone. Like all that's there is a body and the back of a head.
Right.
And he's like, what the fuck? Like, he's like, his mom is fucking. Yeah. And Art comes out and he's like fucking with her, like feeding her, or he has like mashed potatoes. And. He's like acting like he's about to feed her and shit. Then he like pulls out a syringe and chases Jonathan with it. And Jonathan tries like, getting Sienna's sword, because they end up in Sienna's bedroom. You know, he ends up getting hit with the syringe.
Which I thought that was kind of funny too, when Jonathan gets into his bedroom and he closes the door and Art's trying to get in and stuff, and then he pushes it over. And if you notice, Jonathan just crawls to the he didn't even do anything to you yet. You
right.
know, dude already can't walk.
Right, know? Yeah. Get your ass up, man.
Yeah, he's just sitting there, you know.
It's like, no wonder you're about to get
yeah, I'm like, stand up, dude. You know? But that's horror, you know.
Yeah. It wouldn't be a horror movie if, you know, they were just crawling and the killer was walking towards them and ends up killing them and shit. Yeah. But you know, so Art ends up getting him in the neck with the syringe, and Art picks up that sword and looks at it, and it just shows him looking at it, and then it goes back to Sienna and Brooke. They're in the car at this point. Sienna, Brooke, and her boyfriend. I can't remember Brooke's boyfriend's name. Jeff. Yeah. They're all in the car because Sienna fucking freaked the fuck out at the party because she's like seeing that girl, and you know, she's like she was having such a good time that she wasn't thinking about Art anymore and this demon girl and all this shit going on, you know. Now she's finally hitting her like, dude, wait a minute. You know, there's some crazy shit going on. Sienna's phone rings. She thinks it's her brother asking for help, but I mean, I watch my movies with subtitles, so I don't know if you do or not.
Yeah,
but,
I do.
So it kind of ruins it for me, but it's the demon.
Yeah,
it's the demon girl.
Yeah, because it says demon girl.
Yeah.
So you already know.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck. I just spoiled half the fucking movie. You know. But it was a demon girl. She doesn't know that, but as far as she knows, Jonathan's like asking for help because, you know, him and a couple buddies went to this carnival and
they left him there.
And they left him there. And so that's what she thinks is going on. So they go to the carnival, the group. And she realizes, like, as soon as they pull up in there, she like realizes it's the girl from so I think I mentioned it earlier. When they were looking through the sketchbook, there's an article of a 10-year-old girl who got like brutally mutilated at this carnival, which is the demon girl.
Yeah.
When they pull up to the carnival, she's like, wait a fucking minute, you know, and that's when she like freaks out and was like, dude, she like goes looking for him by herself because she knows like it's no coincidence, you know, some shit's going on. So they
and this is when we kind of find out a little bit more about her dad.
Yeah.
Because Jennifer and Jeff are talking about it.
Yeah, Jennifer or Brooke and Jeff.
Brooke,
Brooke and Jeff are talking in the car after Sienna leaves. Brooke thinks that Jonathan is just trying to scare Sienna. Like, she thinks it's just like going to be a prank, you know? And there's been and Brooke was saying that they've been kind of like psycho ever since their father died. So this is the first time that you hear that. I mean, that's not the first time you hear it, but she explains how he died.
Right.
And that's the first time that you hear that. But it says, what does she say? That he went crazy.
Yeah.
He had like a tumor.
He had a brain tumor, went crazy. And one night he downed a bottle of Jack and drove his car into a transformer.
Yeah.
And it went up in flames, and she said you could hear him screaming a mile away from, getting burned alive,
Right.
Kind of thing.
Which still at this point, me personally, I'm like, all right, cool, but what does that have anything to do with anything still?
Yeah.
It was almost like her saying that was supposed to, I don't know. To me, it was like her saying that was supposed to like justify everything that was going on, but it didn't, obviously, because if she would have said like her dad fucking worked at a carnival and met this guy named Art or something, I don't know, and like somehow died that way, then it would make more sense. But like the dude just fucking crashed his car, like that has no supernatural, like the shit that's been going on.
Yeah,
he has no like relevance to Art the Clown at all at this point. You know what I mean? Even his death, which is the only thing that I thought was going to like connect the two. So I was just a little disappointed in that that story, you know, the way that he committed suicide, or just his death in general. I think I was just expecting more. Like throughout the movie, you didn't have any answers from like their dad. You didn't know nothing about him. So
yeah, it would have been kind of nice to have a little bit more information on that.
But I mean, there's there's more possibilities for movies, so we could, you know, some shit could happen, you know. So I'm kind of waiting for that. That's the only thing. The only downside that I didn't like about this movie was the questions that it leaves you with, and you know, which is also a good thing though too. It's not necessarily a bad thing, because you know, some movies you want to be left with just thinking about it, thinking about the movie, thinking about what could possibly happen in the movie. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but if there was a bad thing in this movie, that's what it would be for me. But back on track, Sienna gets a text saying that Jonathan's stuck, and she like texts back like, "Where are you?" And she gets a text back saying the Terrifier, which is a ride, or it's like a
fun house.
Yeah. And which I thought was kind of funny, you know, Terrifier. And, so I thought that was kind of a cool thing. Just another, you know, thing that he throws in there that people would understand. Jonathan wakes up. You know, he got the syringe earlier, so who knows what the hell Art put in it. Whatever it was, knocked him clean the fuck out. So he wakes up in this creepy ass room with like dolls. Like I remember it was like real creepy. You just seen like a bunch of like burn up dolls and
a bunch of animatronics.
Just like real creepy and weird. And it shows the demon girl at like a vanity, you know, looking in the mirror. And she like is cutting her fucking face off or something. It's like she's just digging at her face.
And when she turned around and looked, I mean, you could see what her face looked like, and to me it looked a lot like Jennifer's did. Like that whole, it kind of looked.
Yeah, like that makes sense.
That same thing.
Yeah, I could definitely.
I mean, that's what I thought of. I mean,
I don't know if it has any like connection or anything. It could. I don't know. But yeah, it does look kind of like that.
It does. Yeah.
So he sees that and just runs out of the. He's like, all right, I'm getting the fuck out of here. And then it goes back to her friend Brooke, and you know, Brooke and Jeff are in the car. They're about to like have sex, and he's brings out some cocaine, and they're doing that shit. She stops to call Sienna because she's like, it's been a while, you know, we should probably check on her. And of course, Jeff's like, thinks it's a fucking cock block, like buzzkill, you know? He's like, he's like, dude, like, let's,
who cares?
Yeah, let her die. So he's kind of like getting pissy-ish at this point. He gets out of the car to take a piss, and she's trying to call. I think it's going straight to voicemail. And this is the funny part, because he gets like, he's outside taking a piss, and Art like fucking straight up stabs him in the dick. And he like does it multiple times, and then he fucking rips his dick off. It's like that Visual Discord song. Tonight you will get your dick ripped off. You know? That's like, as soon as he did that, that's what I thought of was that song.
Who knows? Maybe that. That's pretty funny.
So and it's cool because you like actually see it, like you see him pulling his dick off. Like it's not that's one thing I love about this movie, is like it doesn't leave much to the imagination. I mean, you pretty much see everything that's happening, you know, and that's really, to me, that's a really good thing for movies, and it keeps me into the movie, you know, because there's movies that like throughout the whole thing,
you know what they're doing, but you don't see what they're doing.
And I would like to just see it. You know, people are always like, well, don't you want to leave? No, man, I want to fucking see that shit. You know? And so that was a really badass scene. And Brooke,
she's freaking out.
Yeah, she's freaking out. I forgot to mention too, earlier in the movie, he's wearing a shirt. What's that?
Just the tip.
Yeah, he's wearing a shirt that says just the tip, and they like make a comment about it that it's, you know, immature or whatever earlier in the movie when they're at that Halloween party. And somewhere in between the time when him getting his dick ripped off and her trying to call Sienna, she looks at the window and it says just the tip, right? Like written in like the fog, you know, on the window.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of cool too. And so you had to like see the reference on a shirt, like you had to notice that earlier in the movie to really understand what was going on. But so that was another cool thing. So Brooke runs away, you know, and they're in this like carnival maze thing. The fun house. And Sienna's walking through and like trying to find Jonathan. And she's in the Terrifier or that fun house. And Brooke and Art are in the bathroom and Art throws acid on her face.
Yeah.
And like laughs at her, you know, which he laughs at all of his victims, really. I mean, like throughout the whole thing, he's just having a good old time. I mean, the whole movie's just like a big old game for him, you know? Yeah. He hits her with this like piece of wood with nails in it, which I don't know if you noticed or not, but he was making that earlier.
Yeah, at his little shop. Whatever that was.
Yeah, when the demon girl was watching TV and he kicks the TV. Yeah, he's making that.
Yeah, making that thing.
That wooden thing with nails. It looks like an arm of a chair or something, or a leg of a chair.
Leg of a chair. Yeah, he's got like all these knife blades and nails.
Yeah, just a bunch of sharp, random objects.
Crap. Yeah.
And then he like fucking hits her in the knee with it and like breaks her kneecap. Yeah. And then hits her like straight in the chest with it. Like the dude's brutal, man. It's like he's got to be like my top 5 slasher killers. You know what I mean? For sure. The dude is just like so brutal and doesn't give a fuck. And then he pulls her heart out and takes a bite out of it. Right. So I mean, how much, you know, it just never ends.
Right.
It's not like all these other horror movies you watch where it's like, oh, they just get like a couple slices and you know, and it's done. No, man, this dude's never done until it's like
somebody slices their neck or something like that, and that's it. You know, this is like full on brutality.
It's not. He's not done until they're like mush. You know, literally.
Yeah. Nobody's gonna be able to recognize them, you know.
Exactly. And and Sienna finds her. Jonathan walks in, and so does Art. So they're like all in this fucking room, and Sienna is getting her ass beat by Art at this point. Art knocks her out and goes after Jonathan. So Sienna's knocked the fuck out. He's going after her little brother now. They, you know, for a while it shows them kind of chasing each other. Art chasing Jonathan and all this, and Sienna eventually wakes up and grabs that piece of wood with the nails in it.
I think she doesn't she swing it like right at the back of his head and it like sticks into his head and he's got this.
So she grabs that piece of wood with the nails in it and she comes up behind Art and hits him with it like fucking straight up in the back of the head.
It sticks into his skull.
It's like sticking out of his head, and he like looks at her with it in his head.
He's like trying to reach back, trying to get it.
And so you know, Jonathan and Sienna run away. Like this is their chance, you know, to get away or whatever. They get into this like creepy ass fucking church looking funeral. I don't know if it's like a church or a funeral going on or what, but it's like a bunch of like dead zombie looking thing. I mean, I think they're fake.
I think
it's a part of the fun house or whatever. But there's like
they look like all dead and stuff, and then there's
so they're kind of like freaked out about that too. You know, they're like, what? Like, why is shit so weird? You know,
there's like a bunch of hooded figures over there, like monks or whatever. You know, they all had hoods on and stuff.
And eventually Art shows back up. You know, it never ends. It's a horror movie.
He actually was one of those. He was disguised as one of those monks. Pulls the hood back.
Because Sienna walked out, right? And left Jonathan there by himself for who knows whatever reason. And he kind of like Jonathan's looking at these things sitting on the pews. And it was one of them was Art with the hood on, and he gets that whip with it's like scissors and I think it's the same scissors that he grabbed earlier at Allie's house, I think. And he like tied him to a string or like a rope and just, I mean, he's whipping Jonathan with it back, like his back is just getting torn up by this thing. Sienna finally comes back to save her brother, you know. Who knows why she left him in the fucking first place, but she grabs the whip like mid swing and rips it out, like she rips it out of Art's hand and starts whipping Art with it. Right. Then she stabs him in the head with a piece of metal, but it like doesn't kill him. Yeah. He's like choking Sienna. Jonathan sees a gun.
Yeah, the gun he had strapped to his leg.
Yeah.
It is taped up to Art's leg.
Yeah, it was like just
it's like that shotgun.
The same
that
little
he blew the.
Yeah, I don't even know. It's so small.
Yeah, it's like a real sawed off,
like really sawed off,
really sawed off double barrel shotgun kind of thing, you know, like.
And it's like taped to his leg. Jonathan sees it, he grabs it, and he shoots Art with it. Yeah. Sienna, like at this point, Art's kind of down, you know, for the count at this point. Minute, yeah. I think it hit him in the chest, so it wasn't, you know, anything super crazy anyway. But then Sienna like starts seeing shit, and she sees her mom, which we know as the watchers know that her mom got her fucking head blown off by that shotgun.
Right. Yeah.
But Sienna never knew that her mom got her head blown off or nothing. She don't know nothing about that because she was at that Halloween party. Yeah. So she's like pretty much seeing her mom, but come to find out it was the demon girl, basic, you know,
imitating Jonathan's voice.
Yeah. And her mom. Yeah. And Jonathan was like, "That's not mom," because Jonathan knows. He knows what happened.
Right.
And he's like screaming, like, "Don't touch her, don't," you know. Yeah. And Art pushes Sienna down into this basement, I guess you would call it. I mean, it's like gravel, or like I don't know how to explain
like a
it. Cellar, yeah, that's a good word for it. And there's like this pit. At this point, it's like really weird. You can't tell if it's a dream or real life from these moments forward. It's kind of, you don't know what's real. She doesn't know what's real. And as the watcher, you don't really know what's real.
Yeah.
Because there's like there's this pit with red smoke coming up out of it.
Yeah, and it's got red lights around it or
something like that. So you're kind of like, what the heck? You know, like you thought that she already was at the very bottom floor.
Right.
So you don't know what really it is. And she hears like a bunch of screaming coming from it. Art goes back to see Jonathan, and he's like laying there. Art goes up to him and like tries waking him up. I thought that was kind of a funny thing. He's like picking up his arm and shit and smacking him around and clapping.
Yeah. He's like throwing his hands up because he won't wake up. Like,
like he didn't just do it to him, you know. Sienna wakes up and she falls down into that pit because I think doesn't Art stab her with their dad's sword? Somehow their dad's sword is there, which
I think from what I get out of it, I don't know if it's true or not, but when Art sees it in her bedroom, remember
when he hits Jonathan with the syringe,
he must grab it.
Yeah, that's okay.
It. I mean, that's
that's a good point. I didn't think of that. That's exactly probably what it is.
That's kind of what I thought happened. That he just grabbed it then, and that's how it ended up there.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So he has their dad's sword now, and he stabs her.
Yeah,
and she falls into that pit with the red smoke. And she ends up waking up in like a water. She's like in like a showcase, like kind of like magicians are in, you know, like the only thing I can think of.
It was almost like a dunking.
Dunking tank. Yeah. And she wakes up in there, and
it's like kind of back at the Clown Cafe.
Yeah.
Because they're all singing
Drop on down the Clown Cafe. And so you see all those people again, you know, the ones that Art mowed down with his Tommy gun earlier in the movie. And
So I think the one playing the banjo is still on fire.
Yeah. So it's like, is she dreaming? Is she not? It's kind of confusing at this point.
Yeah.
As the watcher. And so she wakes up and she's like drowning. She sees the commercial again, everything that she saw in her dream, she's seeing again. And everybody in the commercial are like dead also. It pretty much resumed from when Art shot them. Like they still have the bullet holes in them. And
right.
Jonathan, it goes back to Jonathan and Art. Jonathan wakes up and Art's like gnawing on his arm.
Right, yeah.
And like Jonathan's like, what the fuck? And so that was a funny part where he finally woke up and Art's like, I mean, there's like pieces of his arm missing.
Yeah.
And but it goes back to Sienna again, and the sword is like down in that wherever she's at with the commercial and stuff. It's like down there now. So which is also weird. I don't know if he threw it down with her. I didn't see that. He must have.
Yeah, I could be wrong too, but I thought maybe he did. I don't know. That probably makes sense if that's what happened.
But the sword's down there, and this is like, I can deal with like dumb things in movies for sure, especially these kinds of movies.
You expect that.
Yeah, it's definitely something to expect. And this was the first time in the movie when I thought this, but it's like it just was weird. You don't really know much about what's going on. Like I've said, with the dad, with the sword, you don't know anything about it. And the sword starts glowing. And at this point, Sienna's dead, like drowning in that tank.
And then it's when Jonathan says Sienna, like he calls her name.
Yeah.
And then that's when the sword starts to glow.
Yeah, it starts to glow. And then her cut from where Art stabbed her with the same sword, like that cut starts glowing. And then it just is like some type of
it's healing and stuff,
it's like some resurrection shit going on or something, And I don't know. It was just weird to me.
Yeah.
But she finally wakes up and escapes the water tank. She gets the sword and she goes up there and she stabs Art in the back with it.
Yeah.
And then she just starts hacking him in the neck with it. It doesn't. It's pretty realistic because it doesn't like come clean off right away. And she like finally. Is staring at him. Art's like, I think, on his knees.
Yeah.
And he like makes a gesture as it's hard to explain his gestures, but basically he was saying, "Go ahead, do it."
Yeah.
The way that
he kind of pulls
he like cocked his head
and kind of exposed his neck to her.
Yeah. And then she just takes it clean off. She runs to Jonathan and they're hugging. The little girl shows up and picks up Art's head. And this is kind of weird. I don't know if this is going to have something to do with the ending credit scene that we're going to talk about here in a minute, but she picks up the head and Art is like whispering something in her ear, or at least she's making it seem like he is. And she's like laughing and almost like he's saying something. And then she looks over at Jonathan and Sienna and her eyes like glow. And then she just walks away.
Yeah.
And then
which that was another thing with her eyes glowing like that. It was an homage to Salem's Lot. Another movie,
yeah.
Because the people's eyes would glow, when they turned into a vampire. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
I don't know.
But that was another one that he threw in there, so I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. But yeah, she just walks away with the head, and they're just hugging, and it ends.
Yeah.
So me personally, I don't know what you thought, but I thought the ending wasn't very great. Like, it was immediately after they killed him, like the movie ended basically. There was nothing really else except for the end credits that we're going to talk about. But so at this point I was like, damn, it was a good, like, I love this movie. Like I said earlier, I gave it an 8 out of 10. It's a great movie. Especially if you're going into it thinking like 80s slasher,
And if you like that, all that gore and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
This is that movie that's really...
And it's the best one I've seen in a long time, like a new movie, But so the end if you watch it, I don't know if the listeners even know this because I didn't know it until you told me. If you wait a little bit, you'll see there's a post-credit scene. And so if you're listening to this episode and you don't know that, go rewatch it or just look up the end credit scene and check that out, because it kind of shows you more of their probably the possibility of being a third movie. Basically, they're at the Miles County Psychiatric Hospital. It shows Victoria, which is the woman who got her face ripped off, and the woman who killed the host of the TV show.
Yeah.
So it shows her, and she's like throwing up in her cell. Like she's in like a cell, and you know, it's like an insane asylum kind of thing. And she's getting blood from her vagina and like writing on the wall. And it's like,
it's gushing out.
It's gushing out of her vagina, like just like gushing. And she's reaching her hand up there and just getting more and just painting the walls with it.
Yeah.
It shows, I think I like pretty much skipped most of like it going to those other people.
Yeah. The two orderlies, I don't know what you call them, but you know, I thought one was Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho. Yeah. He was, so, you know, it showed her writing on the walls with her blood, and then it showed Chris Jericho's, like, you know, obviously that's not his name, but he was playing a character, and then another woman, and they're just bullshitting while all this stuff is going on, and there's nothing really too important that they say. They just kind of
it was kind of funny. She hummed the tune. That was kind of funny.
She's before she hums the tune, which is the drop on by the Clown Cafe. Like that jingle is what she's humming. But before that, you realize that Victoria, she's like writing on the wall and put Vicky plus Art on the wall in a heart.
Right.
She's pregnant and she gives birth to Art, which you know. The woman starts humming the jingle. All this is happening at the same time. Woman's humming the jingle, and she hears like screaming coming from Victoria's thing. I think she's like yelling "cunt" or something.
Yeah.
And so the woman like goes to check on her. She looks through the little window in the door, the little slot, and she sees Victoria sitting like crisscross applesauce with the head of Art with an umbilical cord attached. And she's fucking licking it, like licking it clean, like a cat would do or something, you know? And for some reason, the woman goes in there. I don't know about you, but I fucking would not go in there. But that's...
Go back and tell dude I'm out of here.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Right.
You might need a fucking mop. You know?
Right.
And she goes in there, and Victoria's just like sitting there laughing, and Art's doing, you know, smiling, and then the nurse is just screaming, and then it ends. But it's awesome because there's probably going to be a third one because I mean Art's still alive. I liked how it was gory with the, you know, giving birth to. I still don't understand how that happened. You know, and so I guess hopefully we get some answers with all this in the third one, especially with their dad, with why Victoria gave birth to Art's head. You know, but overall, I mean, I thought it was a really good movie, and I would recommend it to people. Like if you know. If somebody asked me, dude, what's a newer movie that's, you know, good slasher or something? Dude, fuck yeah, Terrifier, you know, Terrifier 1 and 2. Yeah. I've never watched Hallow's Eve, and have you?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Because that's like the first one, right?
Well, Art actually shows up into just a snip of the Ninth Circle, which was, if you want to go that far back, I mean, like, Art just shows up just for a brief moment in that movie, you know. And then you have All Hallows Eve, and I saw the movie. It was okay. It was just kind of slow moving for me. It wasn't. It wasn't. Definitely doesn't. It wasn't as brutal as the Terrifiers are.
Right.
But yeah, it's it's worth checking out just to get a little bit more. Art the Clown, so
right, yeah, and I could use more of him, man. Like he's like I said earlier, dude. He's definitely top 5 fucking slasher killers, hands down.
Yeah, definitely. It's been one of the better movies for me that I've seen in a long time. I mean, I really love these slasher films, and you don't seem to get too many of them nowadays.
Yeah, no.
They're just like my favorite.
Yeah,
going back to the 80s, it was.
It's just so much. Everybody's hyped about these paranormal movies more, and I know that this had a little bit of it in there. It was mainly like slasher for sure, like 95% of it.
Yeah,
but they did throw in a little bit of the paranormal stuff, which I'm not into very much. Maybe that's why I love this movie so much, because it's like
I guess if you think about it, even the big slasher films have some sort of paranormal. Because you can't kill Jason, you can't kill Freddy, you can't kill Michael. They always keep coming back no matter what you do to them. You know, so there's got to be some sort of entity going on there.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point.
I just love I love the gore, and that's kind of like the shock factor for me in a movie.
I agree.
To me, jump scares get old, and you can always tell when they come, and this and that. They don't really do it for me anymore.
They're very predictable.
Yeah, they're very predictable, and for me, seeing the gore and something different, if you in both movies, I mean, you look, almost every kill was different, and
he used almost a different weapon every time too, for the most part.
So I really like this movie, and I'm looking forward to maybe 3, Terrifier 3.
I am too. Yeah, I would definitely 120% recommend this movie if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, leave a comment in the YouTube video. Let us know what you thought. Let us know what you thought about our episode. Did you fucking hate it? Did you love it? Either way, just let us know.
Or maybe you guys caught something that we didn't.
If there's anything in the movie that we
missed or something like that.
100%. Yeah, we want feedback. So any type of comments are cool. I trust me, I can take criticism. So lay it on me. And don't ever fucking forget, get hip or rot. Peace out, guys.